Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and I finally got around to watching it. I've seen it in the theaters at least twice, but today was I. I usually watch these things the moment they premiere at midnight, and I tried, and I was tired, and so yeah, I'm really doing this really late. I just was falling asleep, and there's just no way I was going to be able to do a review right after I finished. Discussion with myself, not so much a review, but there's no way I was going to talk about this at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, even though I've done such things in the past. I was just exhausted. So the day after, of course, work and errands and everything else, I finally did this. Finally watched it. Again, it's Avatar: The Way of Water, in case I didn't say that at the beginning. Yeah, it's the sequel to the for a time the biggest box office film of all time, Avatar by James Cameron. And this is also did this take, I can't remember if this took number one. It did big numbers. Humongous numbers. But yeah, it's if you kind of forgot that Avatar existed, well, nobody can really blame you. It came out in 2009. This came out in 2022. It's a considerable chunk of time. That's 13 years. Yeah, almost 13 years between films. And they were able to bring back. I'm going to spoil little things here. So if you haven't watched the film, the sequel or the original, well, it's kind of hard to talk about these without talking about major aspects of the films. So be careful. I'm not going to give away big, humongous plot twists and everything else in the new film, but I'm going to have to reference certain things, such as deaths in the first film, because death doesn't seem very permanent, at least when it comes to acting roles. So one character died in the first film, and that actor gets to inhabit a different character in the new film, Sigourney Weaver. So, spoiler, yeah. But she plays a very different character than her original, but has a very strong relationship to the original. So it's Sigourney Weaver, by the way, is probably one of the biggest stars in this, understandably. Sam Worthington is back as Jake Sully. And he is Na'vi now. He is pretty much inhabiting the Na'vi body 24/7, I think. And of course, Zoe Saldana, she is not green in Guardians of the Galaxy. She is blue here because she is Na'vi, and she, what's her name? Neytiri. Her name is Neytiri, and they're the couple. And technically, this could be, James could have said, Avatar: The Next Generation, even though the original generation is still pretty much the main characters of this film. It's just that they have a lot of kids now. So, yeah, it makes sense. It's been 13 years. It's longer for them a little bit, I think, because they have, four kids? One of them adopted, the other 3. Yeah. So, 2 boys, 2 girls. And they're just living the Na'vi life on Pandora. And I mean, so a lot of people are like, well, why are we making another movie? Why is this movie coming out again? And why is James Cameron making 4 more or something? 3 or 4 more after this? They're already in the chamber. They're already working on these. They're already, the third one I think is filmed. It's a lot. Why are they doing these? I mean, it's a 20th Century Fox film. Well, Disney acquired 20th Century Fox. They already had a ride made out of it. They had a deal with Cameron to make a ride in Animal Kingdom down in Florida. Avatar, yeah, I forget what it's called. I have not been on it yet. Yeah, I live on a different coast. But, why bring this back? Well, yes, it's the biggest money-making film of all time, and there's more money to be made, and more story to be told. It's something that James has always talked about doing from the beginning. As soon as the first one ended, he was pretty much planning on doing the sequels. And there's a lot of story to tell, apparently. Even just this one movie. It's 3 hours and 16 minutes long. You thought the last one was long. Was the last one? The last one was not 3 hours. It was almost 3 hours. This is 3 hours and 16 minutes long, and you think it would sort of dip or lose focus. It doesn't. It keeps going. I mean, there are moments where you can see sort of, I mean, obviously act breaks and things like that, but the story shifts a lot, and there's a lot of themes going on, a lot of correlation to our history, American history, and James packs a lot. Cameron just packs a lot of stuff into this. Of course, his love of the ocean, the Earth Ocean, not Pandora Ocean. He is a big fan of the creatures that live within it and exploring it, and of course the Titanic. It's all about exploration to him, and the explorations he's done through all of his submarine trips and his Titanic trips and all these things he's done. He's done documentary after documentary after documentary, and he's also seen a lot of sea creatures. And I think a lot of them also inspired a lot of the sea creatures we see in this. There are moments in this film, I'm talking about the new one, not the old one, though that has moments like that too. But this new one especially, he could afford, I think, it's his film, it's his baby. He could afford to just really feel out the space. You're like, yeah, sure, the studio can say, yeah, you know what, shorten this up, Jim, come on, just a little bit shorter. We don't need all this fluff. There's moments in this where there's just no dialogue. It is just music, and it is us swimming around the oceans of Pandora, and it's gorgeous. In the same way that, like, the first film, we got to see a whole lot of new land creatures and flying creatures and everything else. Well, this goes into the depths and the shallows of Pandora's many bodies of water, and it is gorgeous. And a lot of them, yes, they all look very alien, but a lot of them are not that much more alien than the sea creatures we have here on Earth. They're inspired, I believe. By the way, there is a documentary about the making of this now on Disney Plus as well, so if you're interested in that. I have not watched that. It will be on the list of things to watch eventually. If it doesn't get taken away. It won't be taken away. They had to spend way too much money on this. Why would they hide it? And James Cameron loves making documentaries, so yeah, it's going to be on here forever. Unless it gets bought by somebody else. But in this, it can just be a kind of big, wet fish piece for Cameron to just indulge his CGI fantasies and alien fish world fantasies. It could totally be just that film, and it would make for a great Disney nature documentary or National Geographic documentary. And he could pass it off as real if he wanted to. But there's a story. And like I said, it has to do with Jake and Neytiri and their kids. And what we get into is a continuation of the pillaging of another culture, the colonization, let's say, even this more so in this film, the colonization of another land in order to pillage its resources. Does that sound familiar at all? It's not just a thing that's happened in America, it's happened all over the world. The British are very guilty of this as well, and other cultures as well everywhere else, but the British taught us everything we know here in America because we sought to escape them, and then we did stuff like that ourselves with the Native Americans. There are so many correlations to the Native American people represented in this film, of course, in just the basic Na'vi that we know, but also in the Na'vi people who are slightly different in their look and form and coloring even, who live on the ocean. And in this, we get a moment, bit of a spoiler, that our heroes have to move, have to get out of the world that they are familiar with in the trees, and they have to go to a place where the Na'vi, a different culture of Na'vi, maybe even a different race technically, I'm not really sure how that works, live on the ocean. and they integrate. They're immigrants into a new land, and they have to be, they have to work to be accepted, and they also work to do their part. And the very same instance where they start to really become part of the culture, and they start to make friends, and they make enemies as well. There's bullies in every culture, apparently. Of course, it brings problems, because their problems follow them to this new land. And this is where the latter half of the film pretty much is where, once we move into the land of the Way of Water, we get to see new creatures. We get to understand that some of them are not just, hey, fish that look pretty. Some of them are intelligent. Some of them are on par with the Na'vi in intelligence. They just look different. They look like big whales, space whales, who live in the ocean on a different planet. And we get to see that, yes, people are willing to, they're out there killing creatures for sport, for profit, for gold, for energy. And yeah, it's not subtle. The metaphors, just everything, they're not subtle. For those who have a mind that can attach these things to our history, the history of us, this planet, well, yeah, you know what? You're going to get it. You're going to get it. At the same time, if you are 6, you can still look at this, or have the mind of a 6-year-old, or you just want to bliss out, get high, and bliss out, and just have a good time with blue people, skinny, naked blue people, really tall, skinny, naked blue people. If you want to get funky with all that and not give a thought to the troubles of man or fish, you can do that, because this is an action film. It's a family film. It has elements of romance. It's a war film. It's so many different things. And yeah, maybe it's not the greatest film ever made, but you can't say that Cameron didn't do his best to try, because this feels, yeah, it's 3.25 hours long. But when I'm going through this, I feel like I'm watching like a season of a television show. Like, there's enough turns and changes between the certain characters. We focus on the kids. We focus on this character right here, which I will not ruin who that is. Kiri. Okay. We get to know a lot about the culture and everything else. But as each of these characters grow and change and adapt to their new environments, and we get to see the villains. Well, the villains are interesting as well. What I said about some characters don't stay dead, well, you kind of figure there might be a way around a certain character's death. What could make the bad guys in the last film all the more dangerous? Well, you can figure that out for yourself. But pretty much everybody's back, plus a few others. I'm going to tell you that one of the characters is performed by Kate Winslet. Of course, James Cameron is going to pretty much pull anybody back that he can into these films. How Leo DiCaprio has been able to avoid Cameron's attack, I don't know. But yeah, there's a bunch of people. It's CCH Pounder as Moat, Edie Falco's in this. I'm not going to ruin some of the returns. I won't say those. Jermaine Clement, as you know, is the Flight of the Conchords. He has a role in this with a very bad American accent. He's New Zealand. He's a Kiwi. And yeah, he tries an American accent, and there's just a little bit too much Kiwi in that man. And it comes and goes. So yeah, it's, you know what, there's a whole list of people in this. Faces you'll recognize from the last film returning to their original roles as well, that are not just Na'vi. But this is just a stepping stone, and the way this ends, which I will not reveal, it does open itself up to the next film. It's very much The Empire Strikes Back, in a sense, or now that I think about it, very strong sense, but a slightly different direction. It's a very, very much an Empire Strikes Back. If he was just doing a trilogy, well, we'd be watching Avatar: Return of the Na'vi, maybe, in this. So, yeah, now that I think of it, I mean, the fact that James Cameron's first Avatar film did not take place on the water from the very beginning just seems weird. Having it treat people? Yeah. Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. Anyway, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who give this film crap, the original film crap, because it's like, oh, it's like Fern Gully, you know, like it's the same plot, whatever the story. Yeah, you know what? It's fine. But you know what? Stories, there's no new story under the sun. There's only just different versions and takes on the same themes, the same types of characters, the same meanings, the same purposes in how we tell these stories. So yeah, things get recycled. It's okay. We all lived. And honestly, when people say, "Oh, well, why is this such a big deal?" Yeah, 2009 is the biggest money making movie of all time for a while, until I think Avengers Endgame surpassed it, and then it came back and then surpassed Avengers Endgame. I don't know. But all of this, it's like it also was the engineer, the forerunner of the 3D phase of film going, movie going. And of course, yeah, that's for the most part gone. Yeah, there's still real 3D screens at a lot of theaters. I have not been to one in, it feels like a decade, but it's not been a decade. It's like 5 years. But yeah, 3D is still a thing, and I imagine this probably looked pretty great in 3D. It still shoots it for IMAX, for 3D, and yeah, you'll see that there's, is it 3 IMAX? Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, I think this is the kind of thing that if you need to, take it in pieces. I realize it's 3 hours, 3.25 hours is a long commitment, and there are moments where you can sort of see a breath is taken, and well, you know what? You can do that, and you can just sort of stop the film, get up, go to the bathroom, maybe to watch the next part of the film the next day, and just go through it. But a lot of us are binge watching 50 episodes of television in a shot. So, how many episodes of The Office did you watch last week in a row for the 50th time? Yeah, there's no Michael Scott in this, but still. Yeah. Let's just say this is the type of film. We keep complaining that, oh, there's nothing new. Why is nothing ever made that's original and original IP? Everybody's just like adapting comics or movies or YA novels or video games. Cameron's done it. Yeah, yes, there's similarities of things. You can't avoid that. But he created his own IP. And this is the kind of film that is almost, at least in today's technology, unremakeable. You can't remake this film. You're going to remake every classic film ever made. Somebody's going to do The Godfather at some point. And they're already doing Harry Potter as a series on Max, formerly HBO Max. Yeah, they did 8 movies. They're going to make it into a 8-season series. It's going to be more in-depth and more in detail. Yes, yeah, you know what? But Avatar, who's going to remake this? Even if every single one of these films is the top 5 movies of all time, even Star Wars is going to get remade at some point, 100 years from now, or 100 years from 1977. But it'll probably be a completely different medium, one we can't fully comprehend at this point. It might be all in VR. You might be Luke Skywalker. All I'm saying is that as this stands, we're not going to see a remake in animation. We're not going to see somebody go, you know what, Cameron was great in his time, but I think we can do better with this. I can't see someone doing a reboot or a remake of Avatar. And this is fully within Cameron's, it's his baby. Like Star Wars was to George Lucas, but he eventually sold that. Eventually, Cameron might sell this to Disney as well. I don't know. Anyway, I say, yeah, you know what? People say, is this worthwhile checking out? Is this worthwhile following up on? And while you do get a really big, solid exposition dump recap at the beginning of this film, which would not fully require you to watch the first film, I highly suggest watching the first film. If you have not watched it since 2009 or in recent years, sit down, watch that first, go through it, and then hop onto this one. And then watch the making of. Why not? Go for it. But yeah, go watch Titanic while you're at it. It's on Disney Plus, but Avatar is. So yeah, I say it's something that's worthwhile checking out. I don't want to say it's not a slog, but it's not a grind. It's a commitment. Let's just say it's a commitment. It's something that you're really gonna just. It's a day's work. So, and there's an action sequence, like the final action sequence. I think it might be the last 45 minutes of the entire film, or longer. I could be wrong, but it keeps going. When you think that, it's done, they've boxed in themselves in this way, and this is how the story is going to end, and you go, oh yeah, what about those characters? And so yeah, it's a commitment. If you're not ready for that commitment, maybe you want to hold off. But hey, there's no line for popcorn at this screening. It's on Disney Plus. So, and that's why you waited, probably, because you didn't want to sit in the theater for 3.5 hours and miss parts of it when you had to go to the bathroom. So here you go. Pause. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I've talked way too much about that. Over 22 minutes. Tomorrow is going to be the thing I've already picked yesterday, and that is going to be, it was number 198. I was going to show you the number, but it's already been wiped away. 198 is Heroes of the Sky, the Mighty 8th Air Force. Heroes of the Sky, the Mighty 8th Air Force. It's a documentary, yes, it's National Geographic. Yes, and there's a lot. We just keep getting documentaries. What are you going to do? Anyway, I'm going to say that again. Heroes of the Sky, the Mighty 8th Air Force on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.